Okay, so welcome back to another video. This is my 7-week out video. It's actually now Saturday, so I am technically 6 weeks out today. I'm feeling really good, so I guess there's not too much to discuss in this video. My back is pretty much absolutely fine. Like, I'm still keeping on top of all the rehab work, but it hasn't really held me back at all this week, so that's really good. I'm back to benching my feet down. I'm sticking with Sumo at the moment, so that's just a work in progress, but at least it kind of takes some pressure off of me if I'm switching to Sumo this close to comp, that I don't necessarily need to pull deadlift PB, right? So I just have to do my best with Sumo. So I can kind of focus more on squats and bench, which is actually quite a nice thing for me. But yeah, so no updates to my back really, it's just kind of gradually getting better. I will show you Tuesday's session. I'll do a voiceover again of both sessions for this week. So yeah, let's take a look at Tuesday's session and see how that went. So another pretty standard Tuesday SBD session. My lower back was feeling so much better. So I took a 10 kilo jump on last week's weight of pause squats. So this week I did 120 for my 5x4. I'm definitely noticing like my positioning is so much better. And I think honestly, this lower back kind of flare up and scare has just, if anything, made me concentrate so much more closely on my bracing and just my positioning, and everything just moved really well. I did all sets with 120. They felt really comfortable. They all moved the same. My positioning felt great on every single rep, and I managed to keep my rest breaks to sub 2 minutes for every single one. So I was really happy with that. Everything moved well. That pressure over midfoot is definitely starting to just drill in now. Even on my Saturday sessions, I'm noticing I'm a lot more consistent with it. And I think I'm finally getting used to the bar position and just holding that and maintaining that positioning on my back. It's just something that I'm in such a habit of and have been for years, that it is just obviously taking time to get out of the habit of rolling the bar. But every single set felt really good, and I was really happy with pause squats. There's not really anything else to add for those. Then moved on to bench. So I had a long pause top single at 102.5. So 92.5 was my last warm up. Now I am back to bench with my feet on the floor, and I'm really actually struggling, or I struggled during this session especially, with my positioning, because I really heavily rely on the cue of chest to bar. And I felt like as I was bringing the bar down to my chest and attempting to raise my chest to meet the bar, my chest was actually kind of collapsing instead. And you can kind of see it if you look close enough at the video, that my whole body kind of shifts down the bench versus meeting the bench. And I think that's just because I've had a week of not benching in my usual style. I'm sure it will come back. It's just something that I need to just get kind of drill into my system again. So I was actually really unhappy with this bench session in general, but I was also relieved to just be able to bench with my feet down and still hit a decent top single at 102.5. On my back offs, it was again the exact same thing. It was just that chest. I felt like it was just caving every rep, and it was just a really hard thing to kind of get out of the system. It didn't really matter what weight I had on the bar. It happened for my 70 warm-up. Like, it was every single rep, every single set. Larson was just standard, kind of same as it always is. My positioning felt best on Larson than any of my other sets, so kind of glad about that, I guess, in a way. But yeah, the only thing I'm struggling with now with bench is just cueing chest to bar and just getting my body to meet the bar rather than my body kind of sinking as the bar comes down to my chest. There's not really anything else to talk about with bench. It was just a standard bench day, still relatively light. Then I just did sumo deadlifts. I did light volume work, 4 sets of 5 with 120, just drilling in positioning, getting used to the movement, and hoping that by the time comp gets here, sumo can start to feel somewhat natural so I can really push it. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that one. After I finished my sumo, I did then also add in, again, split squats, which I've always done on a Tuesday, and I also added in Cossack squats as well to really help with my adductors and building those up now that I am focusing closer on sumo. So that was Tuesday's session. Overall, apart from bench positioning not feeling great, it was a pretty good session. There's nothing else to really report on. So as you can see, not really much to report on Tuesday's session. The only thing I struggled with was just my bench positioning, but that's not something I'm worried about. Like, it will come back. It's just because I had to spend a week of benching with my feet up, and I'm now transitioning back to normal comp bench. So I'm not too worried about it. And then I had my close grip and accessory day. I had to move that to Thursday this week. So I did 4 sets of 6 close grip with 80. It was super submax, super easy. Again, I struggled with positioning, but I think by the 3rd or 4th set, like, I started to feel like I was actually able to cue chest to bar, and my positioning was just a bit better. So I was already starting to feel more confident about bench. So when it got to Saturday's session, I went in a lot more confident. So I will show you Saturday's session. Just a pre-warning, I filmed all my warm-up sets. I think it's probably something worth discussing. So something that I've always known is an issue for a lot of people, but something that I've noticed a lot more in the last week is how people warm up to their top sets. So everyone is different. Some people do need to do a lot of warm-up sets, a lot of reps on their sets to warm up. But I think a lot of people over warm up. Now, I've always been criticised for not doing enough warm-ups, but it's always worked for my body. It's never caused me any issues. It's never been the cause of an injury or anything like that. I always feel warm by the time I get to my top set, and I always execute my top set fine. Like, I never feel like my back offs are executed better because I'm warmer, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of the time, if you don't warm up enough before your top set, you will notice it, because when you get to your back offs, once you are actually a bit warmer, they will suddenly feel better. But yeah, so I've included all my warm-up sets. I will kind of talk over as I'm doing them and explain what's going on. But I just thought I'd include it because a lot of people, they do too many warm-ups, and then by the time they get to their top set, they are fatigued. Especially if you're squatting, say 200, your last warm-up shouldn't be 195. Your last warm-up is probably better off being anywhere from 180 to 190, if that makes sense. Obviously, everyone is different. That's just a random example I've just pulled into my head. But yeah, I thought I'd include my warm-up sets just to show people how I warm up. Again, everyone is different, everyone has different needs, but I thought it was just something worth including for this video. So let's go have a look at how Saturday's session went, and then I will come back and just kind of explain what's going on after. Okay, so let's talk through my warm-ups. Now, just disclaimer, I do spend about 10 minutes doing some other warm-up drills before I get under the bar. I don't go straight into 70 kilos, so I do make sure I'm a little bit warm beforehand, but I start with 70. 70 is more than light enough for me to start with. I do roughly 4 to 6 reps, sometimes more if I do feel like I need the extra work, and then I jump straight to 120. For 1 to 2 reps, it's usually just 1, but sometimes I'll do a bit more again if I feel like I need the additional warm-up. Then this day I jumped to 140 because my top set was with 150, and usually I like to take between 10 to 15 kilo jump to my top set. I prefer a 15 kilo jump, but I also like that final jump to be slightly smaller than the jump I've taken beforehand. So I went 120, 140, and then a 10 kilo jump to 150. Now, my set before my top double, I just did 1 single rep, which is something that I think a lot of people don't utilize that they probably should. Unless you're doing a really high rep set, you only really want to do 1 rep on your last warm-up set, just to conserve energy, because by that point, your body is warm, your body is primed for the movement, you're just getting used to that additional weight on your back so that you're not taking such a steep jump to your top set, if that makes sense. So that's kind of all I've really got to say on my squat warm-ups, I suppose, and it does apply to all 3 lifts. So you don't need to take huge jumps, but you also don't want to take loads of small jumps because you want to conserve energy on your warm-ups. You want to make sure that obviously you do feel primed for the movement. You want your body to feel warm because you don't want to get injured. That's the point of warming up. But you also want to make sure that you're not wasting energy by doing just too much. So like with bench, I start with 70. I am already physically warm from squats. So I jump straight to 70 because for me, again, that is more than light enough for me to be able to do. And I've done that pretty much my entire lifting career. Then I jumped straight to 95 for 1. And then I jumped to 105 for my top single. Now, I do take quite big jumps percentage-wise on bench, which a lot of, especially women that are lifting kind of this sort of weight or lighter, probably won't really take. But it's something that I have found recently works well for me. So don't necessarily feel like you have to take these big jumps in the way that I am taking them. I do, and I am known for taking larger jumps than most kind of people do, especially women. But it's something that works well for me. So you don't necessarily have to take big jumps. I think the only takeaway I want people to take from this video, and me talking through my warm-ups here, is that you don't need to do tons and tons of warm-ups. You don't need to do loads and loads of reps. You just need to prime yourself for the movement. You should be somewhat warmed up before you even get under the bar. And it's just those first couple of sets where you're really just finalising that warm-up, and then you're just jumping and getting used to that weight, if that makes sense. So that's how I approach my warm-ups. So just finishing off bench here, there's nothing to really report on squats and bench. They were very standard sessions. And then I had sumo after, which I'm obviously, as I mentioned before, still reintroducing, and I haven't done it for years, so I'm just getting used to the movement. But because I have to compete in 7 weeks, I need to get used to sumo and lifting heavy with sumo. So for sumo, I started with 70, I jumped to 125, I started with 75 this time, sorry. I then jumped to 125, then 145 for a single, and then 160 for my top double, which was terribly executed. The first rep was kind of all right. And then the second rep, you'll see the bar just swung away from me as it broke the floor because I'm just not used to keeping my position with sumo, and I did rush that top double. So I'm not overly happy with how the top double moved, but it's not it's not heartbreaking, and I'm taking the positive away that even with my back not 100%, I can grind out a rep on sumo and it not cause any further irritation to my back. So that is a positive, that is a win from that. But yeah, so I wasn't happy with the top double. I'll probably retake that weight next week, but other than that, there's not really a lot to report. I'm just still getting used to that movement. So as you can see, it's been a pretty good week. It's currently Saturday evening. I've got my accessory day tomorrow, but I won't be filming any of that. It's not really worth watching. So on my accessory day tomorrow, overall, I'm really happy with how this week has gone. I'm 6 weeks out today and I feel prepared. I think the only thing that's worrying me, or not even worrying me, the only thing that's not necessarily going to be as good as I want it to be is my deadlift. But I've had to change from conventional to sumo, 7 weeks out? And I haven't done sumo since I was 20, 21 maybe. So it is what it is. Whatever I pull on the day, I'm going to be happy with, as long as it's within range of my old PB, which the fact that I hit 160 for a double today, even though the second rep was awful, I will be fine. I don't know, I'll be fine. It's just keep going in technique, which is why I'm doing sumo twice a week still anyway. So by the time comp gets here, I think it'll be fine. And it gives me time to focus on squats and bench, which is fun for me. I've really, like, my squat and I have not been getting on for a while. And I feel like because I've had to pull back on deadlifts a little bit, it's given me the chance to really address my squat. So I'm excited for what happens on comp day. I am excited for the next few weeks of training. Like, I love training so much at the minute. And yeah, everything's going well. My body weight is trending down, so that's really good as well. My food is still really high. So everything is how I need it to be. So I'm 6 weeks out today. And I think that's probably all I've got to say for this video. So if you have enjoyed this video, please give it a like, comment if you want to, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you next week for the next one.
If I call you on FaceTime, on the West Coast, so it's late night. I'ma make time if you make time. I'ma make time if you make time. I just wanna see the top with you.